I'm Senator Montigny. I represent the district. Representative Chris Hendricks and Representative Paul Schmidt are here. There's too many folks to introduce, so I'll just say good morning. And because we're a little pressed for time, I won't bore you with detail, but I know that my good friends over at the Veterans Transition House will have things to say. Jim and his team have done amazing work. We've worked not only on capital projects, where of course we've been dreaming about this for a long time, but the state also, through Senate and House earmarks, has funded the operations for many, many years, and it's been a real lifesaver for a lot of our, not only constituents, but friends.
That's great. That's great. Great
Welcome.
to hear. Well, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm Mike Kennealy. I'm the Secretary of Housing and Economic Development. And I want to explain a little bit about why we're here this morning. So this is actually my 8th day of an 8-day, 17-city, 25 development tour of affordable housing developments all across the Commonwealth. The purpose of the tour is a few things. One is for me as a relatively new secretary, get out there and see all the great work that's been done, and to really highlight the commitment by this administration to affordable housing. So we, since the start of the Baker-Polito administration, have invested over $1 billion across Massachusetts to create over 15,000 affordable housing units. We're very committed to this work. The governor last year, in partnership with our friends in the legislature, signed a $1.8 billion housing bond bill, the biggest bond bill in the history of the state. So we are really deeply committed to making now record level investments across Massachusetts to create affordable housing. And I've seen a bunch of these now, and they're all a little bit different. But the commonality is just the level of collaboration it takes to get these projects to come to fruition. In a lot of cases, these projects have been dreamed about and in concept for a long period of time, and they're great partnerships between the city or town, the state, developers, nonprofits, community groups. And when I say the state, there's a lot of different parts of the state. There's DHCD and Mass Housing Partnership and CDAC and everyone coming together to make a project a reality. And it's wonderful to see it in person. I'm looking forward to learning more about this today. So I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. I just have a few remarks. I'll be brief as possible. I understand people are on a schedule, and we want to take a look at the building. So on behalf of the VTH and our co-sponsor, Women's Development Corporation, James Coleman, Executive Director, and Charlotte Thomas Davison, I got it right this time, is the Senior Project Manager of the project.
Great.
And I welcome you, Secretary Kennealy, for coming, Senator Montigny, Crystal, and Ms. Chan, I believe, and everybody else. I don't know if we have time to do introductions. We can if you want. I had to put that on there.
Let's go around real quick. I'd love to know who's here. Yeah, that'd be great.
Please, we can go, Leah.
So I'm Leah Berg. I'm the Clinical Program Director at the VTH.
Great.
I'm Roger Herzog from the Community Economic Development Assistance Corp, CDAC.
I'm Jennifer Clark with the City of New Bedford's Housing and Community Development Office. I'm the Deputy Director. I'm a poor substitute, that's all.
That's not true. Knowing half the decades, that is not true.
Having only had this height, yeah.
Kate Racer, Department of Housing.
Chris Hendricks, State Rep, North End of New Bedford and Acushnet. Paul Schmidt, State Rep, Sassagoula Pond and Freetown, Fall River, Westport.
Charlotte Thomas Davison, Women's Development Corporation.
James Coleman, Executive Director, Women's Development Corporation.
Janelle Chan, Undersecretary of the Department of Housing and Community Development.
All right. Great.
Bill Cole, also Department of Housing and Community Development. Roy O'Hanlon, with the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development.
Colleen Ahrens, Housing and Economic Development. Roger Riding, Office of Senator Montigny.
Skylar Kennelly, Office of Representative Paul Schmidt.
Jeff Geller from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund at Mass Housing.
Will Morgan with CDAC.
Jen McDonald, Department of Housing and Community Development.
Jason Strapis, I'm the Business Manager at VTH.
Matt Kennealy, Department of Housing.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Director Cordigay from Mass Housing is in
the hallway.
Just announcing you on your.
Oh, sorry.
I'm definitely up in this hallway.
Well, thanks everybody for coming, and I want to thank real quickly Child and Family Services here that allowed us to use this boardroom. We really have limited space across the street. We do have other buildings, but very small, wouldn't fit this many folks. So we scratched our heads and we asked, and they said sure, we can use the boardroom. Nice. So bathrooms right down the hallway, you can see that, and then the exit's right there. The idea of this project, the walkthrough that we're doing, the idea of the project walked through our door in 2011, And after the initial idea of a gut rehab was shelved, we partnered with Women's Development Corporation, and the project was reconceived as a complete demolition and reconstruction of 2 new buildings. The building was a 14,000 square foot house, hospital, served as a hospital, and it kind of seen better days. And I know Mark has been in there multiple times, and it was always either leaking or something was going on with it. Inspiration for this project was provided by a visit to the Vets Northeast Outreach Center by James and our team, the Northeast Outreach Center led by the late John Radker. So we went up there and kind of researched and thought that this might be a good buildings or 2 buildings that would work for our veterans here in the area. After a closing this past March, work started. One idea that continued was that a kitchen or a community hub type thing. So in building B, I don't know if this was talked about or not, in building A, excuse me, the bigger building that's not up yet. That one, we want to put a full service kitchen in there to make sure that when we have veterans in there, they have a place to go, kind of a community feel. Peter Pereira has offered to teach guys how to take pictures and all multiple types of other things that we want to do for outreach for the vets too. It'll establish a campus feel.
Got it.
So, VTH will be on site in the building for supportive services as needed, but the veterans that may need some services maybe will be there on site. And it'll be an active support of veterans. Thanks to Women's Development Corporation and our funders, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the City of New Bedford, CREA, Citizens Bank, and VTH. It's now a reality. We're actually getting busy on work. I think we're 18 or 20% there.
25.
25 now?
25.
25, nice.
There you go.
The project is, when we're going to be visiting building B today, but the project consists of 2 buildings with 23 enhanced SROs in building A, and building B would consist of a mix of 30, 50, and 60% AMI apartments, 2 in 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms.
Got it.
VTH other projects, rounding out the campus, are 3 more buildings. Our existing VA, the light blue house that you'll see out there, that's a grant and per diem transitional housing for 12 right now, presently. Next door to that will be a complete rehab, which this house on the corner is a complete rehab of a federal period building that we're working in partnership with Whale, the local Waterfront Historic Action League. Terry Burnett's the executive director. She had to bow out. She was here earlier, but she had other pressing things that she had to do. And so she's leading that project with Catherine Duff from Studios to Sustain Architects. And that's going to be the new transitional house that we're going into. And that'll be for the DVS funded program. And I think, and then so that will serve as the new home Department of Veterans Services, which Senator Montague has been a key supporter of this program, and the outreach center where we all parked. Well, not everybody, but there's an outreach center there that we have, that we just finished up a $1.3 million capital campaign, and we raised all the funds. And so for the transitional building and the outreach center, those buildings will be there. So we're truly building a campus. So we take the veteran in from the outreach, find out what the needs are, and we're talking about all veterans in this area that we want to help. We want to say not just our clients, not just our veterans that need services or housing. We want to help out all veterans that say, hey, what do you need? And go from there.
Terrific.
So
That's really terrific. I think one of the great joys of this job is going out and seeing projects like this and just understanding how it came together. And it's our job at the state to enable communities to get things like this done. And it really relies on a lot of people coming together and understanding the needs of the community, the needs of the population you're trying to serve, and then we come in with our tools in our toolbox and help you make it happen. So it's wonderful to see. It's terrific.
It's an exciting time for us. It really is, because that whole campus idea is really coming to fruition. And we'll be able to better serve veterans from initial steps, educational, everything. So we really have a lot of high hopes for the outreach center and
that's great.
The kitchen.
Terrific.
It's really creating a whole different world for the veterans. It's a different quality of life. I mean, I admire, after watching for a couple of decades, the work, but you're putting people in very tough situations that are homeless into formerly a building that was about 2 steps above homelessness. And the only thing that kept people, I think, alive and sustained is just a really good staff and volunteers that said, hey, the physical plant may not be something comfortable, but the camaraderie is really unique model. I know you've seen it in other areas, but a unique model here.
Right.
But now you have a chance to make it something you can feel.
That was definitely part of our conversations, was that we wanted to keep that VTH community feel, because we do, like Thanksgivings, we participate in feeding shut-in veterans in and around the area.
Okay. Yeah.
Bring them turkey dinners, and it's not just VTH doing. There's like 4 other organizations that do this, veteran organizations.
Yeah.
And we start, and they pick up the meals at the VTH. So it's just a huge thing. It's a very nice thing, and we've done it longer than I've been there. I've been there 12 years now.
Wow.
They've been doing that.
What are the ages of the folks you think are gonna live here?
So I think the median age that we're seeing of veterans is probably around 53. The veteran population is aging, but we have veterans in their late 20s. And we have some Vietnam era veterans in our program. Sorry.
Well, this has been great.
I was going to say, the secretary mentioned the collaboration that it takes to make these kind of projects work. And one thing that really strikes me, especially for this kind of housing, because a lot of it is all about the services that are able to be delivered on this site. And so, bringing on someone with the real estate skills to deliver the project, but having a sponsor that knows how to deliver services to homeless and other vulnerable veterans is a great collaboration, and thank you very much for the work you're doing.
Thanks for everybody for.
Jim, could you say a little bit more about the capital campaign? That's always of extreme interest to us, of course.
Yeah. So this project allowed us to basically leverage and say, hey, look, let's go out, and we have this building right here that was actually. The local attorney general's office approached us and said, would you be interested in this building? And I said, we've always been interested in that building. We just couldn't afford to fix it. So it went through a receivership process we were named as the receiver, and we went through the process of receivership and just recently received it, and we won that. And so we are working with Whale and to get that done. So in order to do that, we had to come up with, how are we going to pay for these things? And that's why we went with a capital campaign with a great leadership by a local bank president and our board. And we went through that for that building and for the outreach center. So 1.3 million. Now, Vets Transition House, this is not what we've done in the past. We went from 0 to 60 at poor speeds. You know what I mean? and I keep looking over my shoulder. I said, what's going to drop? You know what I mean? So we have to. We're really excited about it, and I think with the staff that I have, the folks that work here, we can really move on that. You know what I mean? So we can get this thing done, and we had some private funders that were very generous, and they continue to be generous. And so
that's great.
We're really happy about
private being foundations or individuals.
Private foundations, and individuals. Yes.
Secretary, it may seem insignificant in light of the service to the veterans, but another part of your portfolio that we care deeply about is historic preservation. There are lots of nice places in Massachusetts. There are very few like this place. And if you have a basic child and family office here in the middle of an old whaling mansion that's 4 stories high, and it's somewhat typical. So buildings like that, although they'll be functional, it also saves heritage. It's a great hundreds of beautiful buildings in this city, and we're going through a renaissance, and luckily folks had the foresight not to tear them down.
It's a really good point. On the tour, we've seen projects that were historic structures, abandoned structures, industrial structures, and just the level of, I always admire the folks who can look at that, whatever's and say, I'm going to make housing out of that, housing plus services, and really make a community. But it's a great point on historical structures.
When you come downtown with us for the Y project, circle around a little, because it's just incredible.
That's great.
We have another property that's up on County Street that's a historical house. And it's actually what used to be a brewery headquarters, and it's a sober house now.
Don't tell anybody.
I won't tell anybody. But the contractor said, why don't you just site it because you'll be forgetting, you won't be painting it every 10, 12 years or so. And I was like, no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
And we won a historical award.
Oh, nice, all right.
Great. Maintain it. So we take pride in the properties that we have that have historical significance, and even if they don't, we always try to keep them clean and up to date.
That's great.
And safe.
Wonderful. We gonna take a tour?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Thank you.
That's going to be 7.
Gym,
And then
great.
the larger buildings you have. I see. Community kitchen.
I see.
Area on that.
The idea is that, you know, this is a more residential scale, and so it's going to look very similar to some of the other houses in the neighborhood with a few kind of modern touches, a porch, you know, a covered porch and everything. But even with the studios, it's kind of a step even more independent than the supportive, or they all have supportive services available, but then the SROs in the more commercial scale building. They're certainly welcome to use the shared kitchen, but obviously have all their own amenities, and I think, and in this building and all of them, there's a mix of 30, 50, and 60% AMI, so I think, you know, they have a population that's very interesting. They might be on the edge of homelessness, but some of them actually have pretty robust, you know, finances by comparison, but just need supportive services to stay on the right track. So we're trying to capture their whole community and not assume that everybody's in this position because there's no funds. Sometimes they have disability payments that would preclude them from being in a 30% unit. So
That's really interesting. So, okay. I hadn't thought about that before.
Right, yeah, like it's, you know, it's for other reasons that they need to be part of the community. Huh?
They could still be.
Well, they could still be on the, you know, at risk.
At risk,
You know,
Like you could have a decent income and still be
still
unable to
make
afford a home.
bad decisions.
It's really unfortunate.
It is it's a narrow band.
Yeah, or have other social issues that, you know, it's difficult to be in a regular residential setting.
And they don't exactly have this model now. You have your grad houses, but people are limited to 2 years there. Is that right?
Yeah, so correct. So this building right here is our VA grant and per diem transitional housing. That holds 12. And so that's 12 in SRO style, so they share the bathrooms and the kitchen. One with the legislative line item. And that one right there is the new transitional house for that. And that's why right now we're temporarily housed in a church rectory, which is a beautiful building. But that's where we're at right now, and then we're going to move back down here.
We tore down their transitional.
Yeah, we tore it.
It was in very bad condition. Speaking of historic things that couldn't be saved, I mean, it was really.
This is what I meant before.
Had some
You figured out the
environmental
needs of a population and tailor this to the needs, right? It's really very creative. Yeah, it's great.
And some people, there is a campus definitely for sure
Yes.
here, and there's a consolidation of services and there's efficiency. But really, these buildings are knit into the rest of the neighborhood, right? And you see houses down this way, houses down this way. It's a community, and these veterans are going to not only be part of this community, but part of the surrounding area as well. So it speaks to like people being more independent and wanting to be outside and more within the internal veterans.
It's a good point because it is a good community right here. I live right up the street. There's a park right there. The rail's coming in, right? It's coming in across the street. And apparently they might be moving the bridge, the flyover bridge.
Pedestrian bridge, right?
Pedestrian bridge to go over there. So it's going to be right in front of our house. And so it's pretty exciting, you know, the overall plan for the Purchase Street corridor.
And one of the things we learned in visiting Northeast, the John Ratka's property up there, was that, you know, the veteran community encompasses families. It's parents with adult veteran children that still, you know, need, you know, have that. they sometimes would not be available or not be, afforded this type of housing had the housing not been open to serving families of sort of different dynamics.
Right.
It could be, it could be people that are deployed and their families still here. I mean, it really isn't just the veteran. It's the whole, and that's why we want to make sure to get some family housing in here, and even with the studios, that could be. Yep. It's a level of independence above the SRO, but still showing that,
There's families, there's women and men
yeah.
will be in this facility.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. So this is the smaller building, like I said, 7 units, very residential scale. We actually are able to go in around the corner and step in if you want to take a look. It's framed out. There's going to be accessible parking here because there's an ADA unit in this building, so they'll have a parking spot. The building is not exactly symmetrical, so the stair tower is off center, so that side's larger. That's how a 2-bedroom is on that side, and this is stacked with bedrooms. So, you're looking at a bedroom in the back, and a living room in the front, and the kitchen and bathroom. A little hard to see, but are you guys interested in going up and seeing another? No. It's a large 2-bedroom unit. So you have the bedrooms, a larger, kind of more open floor plan. And then below us, which we didn't go in, are the 2 studios that sit as literally half of a 2-bedroom. So they're pretty generous. They're pretty generous because they literally are half of the footprint of the 2 bedrooms. So I think they'll be desirable. But so we have 2 2-bedrooms in the studios and then 3 stacked 1-bedrooms on that side. So huh? Is your count? No, this is it. Here, that's a bedroom, that's a bedroom. That's the open living space. They want to go look up the window. Yeah, it's a good view. Yeah, so landscape of the streets. It's all grass wrapped around the front of the ground floor. Yeah, we're not even in it. It's not that one of the cobbled together buildings of the whole property, also.
Yeah, the single combination, and for me, just quality control. We want to use the best product possible to our residents, so we manage. Yeah, that's all right.
And you go with the property and the VSW.
We're going to be managing the 30 units for this project.
Okay.
So the family units and the
they manage their own other. I'm just curious. Yeah, and so it's a little bit different than what they have. Like you don't have a partner on any of your other properties. So they have their own maintenance.
Whale and S2S as kind of leading on the project.
But not like a property manager or maintenance. But in this case, we're doing that. So it's a little bit different arrangement than other properties.
Got it.
Well, I don't want to keep you guys too long, so.
Well, we had a great visit today in New Bedford. What we saw today is just an incredibly thoughtful collaboration around housing for veterans. They're really creating a real campus out of this property, reusing historical structures, and being very thoughtful about the combination of housing plus supportive services. And another great partnership, as with so many of these developments, partnership between state, city, developer, and community groups. It's wonderful to see.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Take care.
it's harder when people are watching.
Hey, 11's not that bad. All you need are a few pointers.
Thank you. Are you a free throw expert?
Well, no, not really, but I do know excellent teamwork when I see it. It's so much easier to get active and live healthier when your friends are there to motivate you with a little friendly competition.
Now let's get this game started.
Right.
Oh, she's going for the hook shot. Hook shot. Oh! That's what I'm talking about.
America.
Let's get healthy together.